Diagnostic Working Group. I will present together with Christopher Gooley and Nicholas Schwab. So Nicholas and Gooley are the co-chairs of the Diagnostic Working Group. And yeah, we're happy to hear and looking forward to some discussion afterwards, especially. Some facts about the working group is that we're a relatively young working group. So we have just founded at the last AIRR-C meeting in Genoa, Italy, which was really nice because we were able to meet all in person. And by one of the side discussions, we thought that the diagnostic is something what we're really interested in and what we would like to push forward, and how we can bring the diagnostic as a working group into the AIR community. And one thing was to form a working group, but then also with the question, what is the really task of the working group? But there was a lot of interest around diagnostics, so we established a preliminary working group, or just a group of interested people, got later ratified from the subcommittee as a working group. And we, since last year, summer, since Genoa, we meet once a month, roughly. We have over 70 people in the email list, and usually 25 people join the call once a month, which is on one side good because it shows interest and there's a broad background of interest. So from non-government, non-profit organization to academia to industry, like what you see also from the co-leads here from industry and academia together. And which is really nice, but it's also more people sometimes stop the discussion, so it can be a really fruitful discussion or more monologue. So, but it's driven by the interest of diagnostic and how we can bring AIRR-C diagnostic more to the clinic. So the clinic is a great aspect of it. So we came up with a purpose of the group is to explore the possibilities of applying AIRR-C technology as diagnostic tool, especially in the clinic. And there's a lot going on and on the brain to come into clinic as a tool, but so far we haven't seen as much as we would like to do. And one major question is what are the major challenges and bottlenecks in the field to really make repertoire diagnostic a more common tool and get broader applied, and what can the AIR community do to foster this or provide help to it. And one goal was to evaluate the use of AIRR-C data for diagnostic purpose. So what can you learn from the data and how you can move forward? And a major thing is to identify bottlenecks for it. So for what are the major challenges to move forward as a diagnostic tool? Of course, we're touching a lot of other working groups spaces with these, and this is kind of on purpose because it's a broad field and it requires a lot of different expertise from the biological standpoint, how to run the assay, from the data usage to the software side, and the data sharing and common ground of knowledge and data standards. So that is on purpose. This is touch a lot of other bases, and we hope we will expand this going forward more so that we can work together with other working groups, but also another working group members are part of the diagnostic working group. So therefore, there's always a shared common interest in it. As well, that from the regulatory side, from agencies, there's interest to have some discussion. We have had over the year some discussion with representative from the FDA to give a talk, or sometimes also part of the mailing list from the Precision FDA Hackathon, which is going on right now. There were some discussions, preliminary discussion, where you can get data and then promote it within our community to really have a shared purpose and potentially going forward, working more on it. So this is some of the goals we have, and of course, since the COVID, which we haven't thought about when we formed the working group, but see what we can do as a working group in the diagnostic to support the SARS-CoV-2 research side. It's a lot of goals and a big purpose for a working group, so it's eventually a little bit too big. So we try to break it down, and this was what we done since the last meeting and what we have achieved. So we formed a working group. We decided as a group to try to become a working group. We got ratified from the executive board here from as far as I remember, to establish standards data set for clinical AIRR-seq data and develop diagnostic tool. It's something what we have talked about, but it's not, it's too big of a task for this group, or it can be handled better from other groups. If there's some comments, please let us know, so how we can address it better or how we can form it. What we did was writing together a manuscript, an opinion manuscript about the immunome as sort of AIRR-seq base for diagnostic, and promoted from the publication side, to funnel in a little bit the knowledge and where we see the whole field can go or should go. It was also quite helpful for the group to have active discussions around the topic and see where the interests lie and the background knowledge, so to really bring the different perspective and viewpoints and expertise together on a manuscript. And of course, there's a lot of aligning what we have to do, which is it takes time, but it's part of the process to align with a lot of people, and this is the benefit to have this different backgrounds, to have a common nominator, and that we can sign it at the end, the manuscript. And we are right now in a minor revision and hope to finish it, the revision by the end of the year, so it can be published early 2021. Which was also useful before we start the whole manuscript endeavor, is to really see what the group is doing, what the group has, so the members of the group, what the background are, and we developed a survey and asked what the background are, which fields they're working in, and especially what is the bottlenecks, what they see going forward is with the diagnostic field. And interestingly, it was not so much the wet lab side, it was really more the how to analyze the data, how to interpret the data, the software part, the interpretation analysis of the data is the major bottleneck, what was seen from the group for the diagnostic fields. Our aims for 2021 is, because I think the AIR community got invited to write a chapter for immunogenetics, and we would like to contribute to that from the diagnostic perspective, so from what to consider when you want to set up studies, so from the common bottlenecks or things to consider, also to make the analyzing of the data afterwards much more easier, because you have to pick the right group of people, the right cohort, so to avoid some pitfalls, making analyzing the data easier and more possible afterwards. So this is something what we would like to contribute. And in the first couple of months of 2021, from the diagnostic side standpoint, and of course it's together with a lot of other working groups and yeah, working jointly on it. The other part, what we discovered and our reflection about the working group, and we also asked what the working group would like to do, is there's a lot of discussing ongoing topics and where the field can go. And one idea what we have, which we also would like to discuss here, is then maybe establish it more formally at a podcast-like interview with outside experts to really, for one, get more expertise to what is going on in the field of diagnostic. What is the not only the technique, not only having a journal club, so really the broader context, where how a publication we're coming from, how is the company is formed, what is the vision of the company, what are the plans, what is from a single researcher, what is where do they see the field is progressing, what they think is a challenge going forward. So really having active discussion platform for diagnostic based work, and sharing it also through a podcast like thing, or even with a podcast. And it was well received so far, and we would like to explore further what kind of possibilities we have as a group. And yeah, and we would like to get feedback on this topic, because we're exploring this still, and finding out if this is a good thing for the next year, because it's really making it more aware of the diagnostic and getting outside expertise, and then through this process of discussion really distill down what are the major things we need to do going forward to make it better and more possible to have a diagnostic and AIRR-seq based diagnostic. points to ratify is that we become an official working group with the leads, with also from the group to get confirmed that we three would continue it, that we're working on the chapter, and that we have a podcast-like interview or discussion series about AIRR-seq diagnostic, and if this would be a task for a working group with these arms, and then explore further also with the whole diagnostic field, the connection point with some agencies like we have had in the past, and also promoting, the the bottlenecks and discussion of bottlenecks, and then through this discussion coming to some conclusion what can be done and making aware of the potential possibilities. With that, I don't know if Gooley, Nicholas, if you can also speak, if you have the permissions to do, then I would invite you to also give a comment if you can. Otherwise, we are open for questions, discussions. Can someone hear me?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I think that was a great summary. So if there are questions, it'd be good to get into them now.
So,
I have a question from
did
James
you have
Scott.
anything you wanted to add? Sorry.
No, I think it was good, a very good summary of what we tried to do and what we actually did in the last 1.5 years. And I'm just here to answer potential questions. I think that was all very good.
So we got one from Jamie Scott. Jamie, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring up, this is great what you guys have accomplished in the past year. And I just wanted to bring up that it seems like there's several groups that would like to get their message out, and we have communications subcommittee which can work on that. I also just wanted to bring up to everybody that the Antibody Society, and therefore we, are affiliate members of FOCUS. That's the Federation of Clinical Immunology Societies. And they have a meeting coming up in 2021. And very soon, if we wanted to, I'm on their strategic planning committee, or I forget the name of it, but it basically does their strategic planning, and started talking to the chief of their education. In the past, TABS has run some what they're called satellite symposia. We could run us, and we had to pay a lot of money for it because we had to pay registration for every speaker, which was a major pain in the butt. But because I've whined at them, and I think other people have whined at them, they're not charging anymore. So I'm just throwing out the idea to you folks in the working groups, is that we could have a satellite on introducing, what AIRR-seq data are, how they're being used in diagnostics and all this other stuff, because these are people who want to learn about research and stuff. It's basically put on by Stanford and some people back east. But anyway, people in the Bay Area and people back east. But the point is that if you wanted to do a symposium and introduce these ideas to a broader audience, we could do it for free. So that's basically if you want to put the work into it. And of course, it's probably going to be virtual because it's next June. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a face-to-face. It'll be in Boston.
Great. So Florian or Nicholas or Christopher, any comments?
Yeah, it would be nice to follow up on that, and what you really envision what we should do there. Because if it's a repertoire sequencing in general, then it's more the AIR community presentation, or you want to have repertoire sequencing for diagnostic purpose. Focus would be the question, and what is really the task?
Well, it's whatever we want. I think that, for instance, we could have a thing that gives starts out giving an overview so people understand what AIR-seq data are, and give some examples of, it's a simple, it'd be like a session in a meeting. And so you could have whatever speakers you want, and you could have whatever information you want, we could do a semi-workshop atmosphere. It could be, you know, 4 or 5 formal talks, but it could also be, let's try to recruit some of these guys, you know, to help us out and for them to think about diagnostics. I mean, it's clinical immunology, so you'd think that they'd be interested in this topic. Or it could be that you want to introduce how cool it is and come up with a speaker who's doing some major cool diagnostics. So, or a mixture. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I don't have any ideas at all. I'm just throwing it out there to make you think about it, because I have no ideas.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really interesting idea. That audience, the focus audience, is a very different audience, I think, than most of us are usually interacting with in the AIR community, being that it's very much focused on the clinical side. And if we're all successful doing what we're aiming to do, we want it to continue marching towards, you know, stronger clinical adoption. So getting in front of that community sounds really intriguing.
What we could also think about is, if we would do this podcast-like interview series, sometimes in meetings that I've been to in the past, there were also interview-like things, panel discussions, not between basically sessions. So there would be just, you know, in the meeting hall, there would be a podium and they would have basically an interview. And if we had the series until then, we could also basically film one of the episodes basically as a part of this FOSIS meeting. And we would just choose an interview partner that would be of interest to the attendees of FOSIS.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're running out of time, but then there are 2 questions from the audience. Maybe we could ask one of them and then move on to the next talk. Should we try that? So one question comes from George Blank, and he asks, would diagnostics overlap with prognostics, or is the latter just too crowded a venue, scientifically speaking?
So that's a good question. So in my view, prognostics, diagnostics, and monitoring kind of go hand in hand in most cases, because in the prodromal stages of disease, you will most of the time already have a signal, even though you don't have a diagnosis yet. But in a perfect world, they overlap. But you know, from a strategic point of view, most of the time, the checklists basically are different. But I think biologically, of course, they will overlap.
Great. So I think with that, since time is, we're starting to get a little bit behind time, we'll move on, but we can definitely go back to some of the other diagnostics questions in the hot topics section. So if people have additional questions for the diagnostics working group, please type them into the chat or into the question and answer window rather, and we will try to deal with them in upcoming session.